NFL free agency is all but in the books, or tampering period, whatever you want to call it, for day one. We're going to talk about all the big moves here, including the Houston Texans trading Laremy Tunsil to the Commanders, the Seattle Seahawks coming to terms with Sam Darnold and what I think about that future, and a whole lot more. But before we hop into today's video, if you love the NFL, make sure you subscribe to this channel as we are on the road to 200 subscribers. Let's get into today's video. So the first free agency move of the day was Haason Reddick to the Buccaneers for 1 year, $14 million, $12 million guaranteed. I think this is a very good deal for Tampa Bay. They get a solid edge rusher who 2 years ago was a Pro Bowl level talent, kind of a fall from grace in terms of what his, contract could have been a year ago. But at the end of the day, Haason Reddick still a really solid edge rusher presence, as Shaq Barrett and other guys on that Tampa D line have kind of aged out of being impact players. I still think Reddick can be that for them in a very winnable NFC South. And then the Buccaneers potentially steal of the day, Chris Godwin. 3 years, $66 million, $44 million guaranteed. Godwin reportedly left north of $20+ million on the table, whether that was from the Patriots, the Panthers, some other mystery team. Chris Godwin wanted to be a Buccaneer, remains a Buccaneer, and this is a really, really good signing for them. Continue their wide receiver duo of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Baker's got a ton of weapons to throw to now, with Jalen McMillan also, coming into his own after Godwin got hurt last year. A lot of people forget this, but before Chris Godwin got hurt, this is a guy that was on pace to be top 5 in the NFL in receptions. This is a real difference maker for this team. And I think after they lost him, their odds of coming out of the NFC drastically fell just because they didn't have a consistent enough underneath weapon. This is a really, really good deal for Tampa to just be able to bring back Godwin, but the price tag, you have to love it if you're a Buccaneers fan. The Chicago Bears had a really strong day today, and we're going to talk about them, as we continue to go through here. But they agreed to a 3-year, $42 million deal with center Drew Dalman. The Bears really emphasized the trenches, and I think that is a massive W for them. That's where they lost a lot of their games last year. They have DJ Moore, they have Rome Odunze, they have Cole Kmet. Caleb Williams is a talented quarterback. Ben Johnson is a talented play caller, but that offensive line needed some help. They got it help today, as well as the defensive line. I like the, deal here as well, too. I think the money is right. The Chiefs, they sign offensive tackle Jaylon Moore. A fine move. Obviously, they needed some more secure presence at the tackle position. They were having Joe Thuney play it last year in the playoffs. Ultimately, obviously, in the Super Bowl, it led to some pressure coming at Mahomes. At the end of the day, you don't have the kind of capital to get an elite player necessarily. Maybe they could have gotten Tunsil had they known he was available, but they end up with Jaylon Moore, and I think that's a fine signing for them. The Houston Texans started to really show a priority early in the day on special teams. They brought in Braxton Berrios. I expect him to be the kicker punt returner. It's a fine deal. Javon Kinlaw to the Washington Commanders, 3 years, $45 million. Kinlaw is a guy who I thought had a lot of talent, but ultimately he hasn't really been able to put it together on the NFL level the last couple of years, ever since really leaving San Francisco. And even Niners fans will tell you he kind of didn't live up to the hype in San Francisco. I think it's a lot of money. This is the thing with Washington, though. One, Adam Peters, their new GM, is going to be aggressive. We saw that earlier this offseason. We saw it during the regular season with Lattimore. We saw it them getting Debo. And then we saw it today with, this signing, and then the team going out and trading for Laremy Tunsil. At the end of the day, when you're not paying Jaden Daniels, you can overpay for players. But to be honest, I don't love the Kinlaw signing. I don't think he's a massive impact player. And I think letting Jonathan Allen go, we'll see what kind of money was there. But I would have rather kept Jonathan Allen if I was the Commanders. The Cincinnati Bengals bring back B.J. Hill on a 3-year, $33 million deal. Fine value, but a lot of work to do for the Bengals. Loved this signing. Patriots signing linebacker Robert Spillane. This is a guy who, when you watch the Raiders defense, he was all over the field. The Raiders defense kind of gets underrated. They were pretty good under Antonio Pierce, and this was one of those high octane, high energy guys all over the field. You'll be happy with what you see with him making plays. Jimmy Garoppolo back to the Rams. Cool. Just a little backup there. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they signed cornerback Jordan Lewis to a 3-year, $30 million deal to play their nickel corner spot. This is the most a nickel corner is made, which is still kind of crazy to me for how much nickels do in this league. $10 million being the highest annual average salary. It's wild. My phone's going crazy as their news breaking right now. Darius Slayton signing with the Giants. Okay. I don't know if that was worth as many tweets as it was. Anyways, back to the Jordan Lewis contract. Jacksonville had a horrendous defense last year, and they certainly prioritized it today, and I think they will as well in the draft. Jordan Lewis, a solid piece, though, a corner that was really good in Dallas, and I think for this value, will bring a lot. I think nickels are just generally undervalued. Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans, 4 years, $82 million, $50 million guaranteed. I do like the Titans' mindset of prioritizing offensive line. I do kind of wonder if they're prioritizing an O-line, if we do see them kind of have more of consideration for drafting a quarterback, whether that be Cam Ward or somebody in the second round. But at the end of the day, the contract a little too fruitful for my liking for Dan Moore. I saw him kind of get bullied a couple times this year, but at the end of the day, the tackle market is what the tackle market is. The Patriots bring in Carlton Davis alongside to play Christian Gonzalez. I love this move for New England. Again, focusing on the defense. They need a stronger unit on that side of the ball. They need to improve really just every area. They brought in the linebacker Spillane that we talked about earlier. Then they went out and got Carlton Davis for that secondary, a really good piece here to be your cornerback too. He is really, really strong in that role, should succeed, a physical corner, can get interceptions. Loved this move. Justin Fields, I think that's where we're at, or no, okay, we're not there yet. Just a little preview story that was kind of right. DJ Reed to the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions lost Carlton Davis. They lost him, I believe, what was his deal? Did it say there 3 for 60? I'm pretty sure this was like 3 for 45, 3 for 48. So a little bit less. DJ Reed, a little undersized for the corner position, 5'9", but a physical corner at that. I think he matches some of the attitude and that the Detroit Lions defense needs to have with Aaron Glenn leaving. Good culture guy. I think in terms of if you're Detroit, you can't pay everybody. You can't pay top of dollar market. I think the fall off from Carlton Davis to DJ Reed isn't a big one, and to save a little bit of money here and there, I liked that signing for them. This was huge. The Patriots signed Milton Williams, $26 million per year. It came out that was 4 years, $104 million. Now, as anybody that is not new to the channel knows, your boy, Philadelphia Eagles fan, I'm well experienced in who Milton Williams is. And I think Milton Williams is a tremendous talent at the defensive tackle position on the D-line. New England needed to focus here. They did. They signed Harold Landry yesterday, Milton Williams today. They saw a Christian Barmore on the line. The line is getting improved in New England. My one concern is in Philly, Milton Williams played more of a complementary defensive tackle role. He wasn't an every single snap guy. For $26 million per year, you're going to be out there and being every single snap guy. Now, he did have a 17% pressure rate. Holy, Peter piped a pickup. You know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, he had a great pressure rate on his limited sample. Is this a guy that can bring high octane energy every single play when he's out there? He was a high energy guy for Philly, but he's out there on limited snaps. I like the potential. I like the size. The speed is there. It was an absolute game wrecker in the Super Bowl. That was just one concern that I'd have and something I'd keep an eye out for if I was a Patriots fan. The Panthers signed Trayvon Moehrig to a 3-year deal worth $51 million. Love it. Really locking up that secondary. Extended J.C. Horn earlier in the day, bringing Moehrig to play safety. The Rams continue just a fantastic offseason, in my opinion. 3-year deal worth up to $30 million, basically for Poona Ford. Poona Ford was really, really solid for the Chargers last year. He gets to stay in LA. I think he's really solid in the run game. Again, the Rams, that D-line, Verse, Fisk, now Poona Ford. The Rams are building something for sure in LA, and they're a real threat next year. Huge news. Huge news. The Seattle Seahawks signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year deal worth about $100 million. So you do the math on that, that's $33 million a year. I came up on this platform a couple days ago reacting to the Geno Smith trade saying, I don't understand what the Seahawks are doing. Now that it's played out, my tune has changed a little. Geno Smith is reportedly getting an extension with the Raiders for $40 to $45 million a year. He's going to be making $10 million a year extra than what Sam Darnold is making, and over the course of a contract, probably $30 million extra than what Sam Darnold is going to be making. I do not believe the talent gap is that wide. Despite what your favorite TikToker will tell you that Geno Smith's a top 10 quarterback because of this and that, I don't think the talent gap is that wide. And I think $33 million a year for a competent bridge quarterback, a guy in Sam Darnold who can at least sustain a decent offense and get guys like JSN and Ken Walker, and if you draft a receiver, etc., develop talent, is not bad. I have some real concerns about Sam Darnold behind this Seattle offensive line, because we saw in week 18 versus Detroit and in that playoff game versus the Rams, you get pressure on Sam Darnold and things can collapse pretty quickly. Seattle's got a damn terrible offensive line. But at the end of the day, $55 million only in guaranteed money, so you can get out of the contract after 2 years if things aren't working out, and you got an extra third-round pick because that's what you traded Geno for. All in all, I don't think that this was a bad decision for Seattle, and the risk is kind of worth the reward. If Sam Darnold is that guy that he showed for most of the regular season last year, finally got a glimpse of the bright lights and is ready to tackle it again, Seattle could certainly be a playoff team in the NFC if they play their cards right. That defense was impressive. Justin Fields to the New York Jets on a 2-year, $40 million deal with $30 million in guarantees. NFL Twitter and NFL social media, etc., it is a brokenness on what Justin Fields is. You will talk to somebody who tells you this is a guy who could be a Super Bowl winning quarterback one day. His athleticism, his arm strength, it's all there. You'll talk to another guy who will tell you Justin Fields isn't even worth being an NFL quarterback. He's just a backup at best. Can't throw the ball, can't read a defense for a lick. The truth, probably somewhere in the middle, maybe leaning more towards backup just because the Pittsburgh Steelers are generally a smart run organization and they chose Russ over him for a reason. But at the end of the day, I can appreciate the fact that the Jets, who, again, are in a spot where they're probably looking for a gap bridge quarterback. And if Justin Fields works out, great. If not, it wasn't really part of the plan to have a guy that was going to be a guy. Anyways, for this contract, $20 million a year for a guy that you're just kind of taking a flyer on to be your bridge QB and can give you a little bit of dynamicism to your offense with the run game. I don't hate the deal, but ultimately my expectations aren't as high as Justin Fields is leading the Jets to the playoffs. I think it's Justin Fields might have a competent New York Jets offense that they can still develop talent. We got Cam Bynum, 4 years, $60 million to the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts had a terrible secondary last year. They started focusing on it. The first move was bringing in Cam Bynum. I thought this was a really, really solid move for Indy, and you pair that with the move that they made later for Charvarius Ward, and the Colts are doing some good things there. Like I mentioned earlier, the Bears started to focus on the defensive side of the line as well. Defensive end, Dayu Abananengo. I thought this was really good. 3 years, $48 million, good value, good player. Chicago continuing to have a good offseason. Shout out Saquon signing his extension today. The Jaguars bring in De'Ami Brown, 1 year, $10 million deal. I guess one Gabe Davis wasn't enough for them. The Broncos, safety, Talanoa Hufanga, 3-year deal worth up to $45 million. This is a fantastic signing for Denver. Their defense was top-notch last year. Their defense took the ball away a ton last year, and this is a guy who is a ball hawk and an absolute missile in the middle of the field. I absolutely love this signing for Denver. It might be one of my top 3 signings of the day. Truthfully, that secondary gets even better. Hufanga and Pat Surtain back there. Love everything that Denver is doing. That defense is going to be uber strong. I hope they can get a consistent slot wide receiver for Bo Nix, and the Broncos will be in real business. The Bills signed Josh Palmer to a 3-year, $36 million contract. Doesn't really make a ton of sense to me, but I guess you got to fill the wide receiver room. Josh Sweat to the Cardinals. The Eagles lose another player. And for anybody wondering, I'm not really worried about the Eagles losing guys today. It's a team with a lot of depth and a lot of young depth. I think they'll be all right. Josh Sweat, 4 years, $76 million. Is it an overpay? I don't know. I just think we're kind of getting to this market where edge rushers are going to make a lot of money. Sweat for under $20 million a year feels pretty fair there. I think he's going to be a really good player along with their first round pick Robinson from a year ago on both edges. Jonathan Gannon reunites with this guy. I knew he wasn't coming back to Philly, but Josh Sweat was a monster in the Super Bowl, easily could have been Super Bowl MVP. I think he did benefit from getting a lot of one-on-one matchups, and especially in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs tackle situation. But at the end of the day, he's still a solid player, and Arizona has a real edge rusher now. Grady Jarrett to the Bears. Again, the Bears focused on the trenches. That is what a team that has Super Bowl aspirations does. You know, is Grady Jarrett by himself a needle mover? Probably not. But again, it's just the totality of what the Bears are doing. They are focused on the trenches. It's a big man sport at the end of the day, the NFL. That's where games are won and lost. Speaking of which, the Packers bring in guard Aaron Banks, 4-year, $77 million deal. It's a solid move. The Packers always have a top 10 to top 15 offensive line in the sport. They're making sure that they stay that way. Massive trade. The Houston Texans traded Laremy Tunsil in a 4th-round pick to the Commanders for a 2026 second and 4th and a 2025 3rd and 7th round pick. I got to be honest, there has to be another domino here for Houston, in my personal opinion. The offensive line was the problem last year. CJ Stroud had a higher pressure percentage rate all season than Patrick Mahomes had in the Super Bowl. And the response was to trade a top 5 left tackle in the sport, and that's being generous, probably more so top 3 in his prime-ish towards the end of it, but still playing at high level away. And this is something that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. I think that Houston likes who they have in terms of Titus Howard and Blake Fisher, but at the end of the day, they're not better than Laremy Tunsil. This to me felt like a classic Bill Belichick get out a year early rather than getting out a year late. And if Tunsil falls off, like Nick Caserio in this Texans front office look like geniuses. But if CJ Stroud's getting crushed all year and this guy's playing great, you know, I'm not going to judge an offseason of one day. I'm not going to say that Texans suck because of this move. But in a vacuum, this feels like a weirdly timed move, and I'm still expecting another domino to drop. For Washington, man, you just got a top 3 left tackle in the sport, and Jaden Daniels is a top 10 guy in the sport, undoubtedly. They're aggressive, but they're being aggressive during the right window. When you're not paying Jaden Daniels, you could afford to take on an expensive left tackle. You can afford to bring on an expensive Deebo Samuel contract for 1 year. You can afford to overpay for a defensive tackle in Javon Kinlaw, who you really want. Washington, as an Eagles fan, I'm frightful to say, has been having a really good offseason. Jeremy Chin to the Raiders. You lose Morig, you bring in Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin was one of my favorite players when he first came out, a real hybrid type safety, good in the run game, great tackler. This is a solid move for them. Dante Jackson to the Chargers. Cool, is what it is. Nothing too spectacular there. Brandon Stevens comes in to replace DJ Reed. If Stevens can get back to the level he was at 2 years ago, I think this is a really, really solid move for the Jets. Nate Hobbs, bring him in at corner. Again, Jair Alexander likely being traded this offseason. Makes sense for the Packers here, get younger at the corner spot. Do I think Hobbs is at the level that Jair's at present day? No, I do not. But again, sometimes you got to focus on developing good talent. And when you're paying a quarterback like Jordan Love, you got to make some moves. The Philadelphia Eagles traded Kenny Pickett for Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 5th-round pick. Philly, in my opinion, got a more dynamic backup quarterback. Tanner McKee's the real backup quarterback there. A 5th-round pick and saved $2.5 million. Just a classic Howie Roseman masterclass. Patriots signed Josh Dobbs. What this really means to me is Joe Milton will hopefully be traded, and hopefully he could be a starter. The Colts, Charvarius Ward. Again, the Colts really focusing on their secondary. The defense was a problem last year. You bring in Bynum, you bring in Ward. Really, really good moves from the Colts there in that secondary. Justin Watson to the Texans is what it is. Zach Wilson to the Dolphins is what it is. Ryan Kelly. Okay, what are we doing here? Let's not do that. Ryan Kelly to the Vikings. Okay, the Vikings offensive line continues to improve. They have a really solid group here. Good offensive line now paired with a good veteran center for J.J. McCarthy. The weapons, they retained Aaron Jones. You still have Jefferson, Hawkinson, another year removed from the injury, Jordan Addison. Minnesota, man, they are a group to be feared for sure. Tershawn, these are new deals for me. So this is from when I started recording, this has happened. So the Panthers signed defensive line Tershawn Wharton into a 3-year deal with 54 million, 30 million guaranteed. Focus on the trenches. You know, fine move. Again, the money tells me that you're betting on him to kind of improve and outwork the deal. We'll see if that happens to come true. The Giants re-signed Darius Slayton to a 3-year deal worth 36 million. That's fine. Field stretching guy. Don't have a true quarterback. Mac Hollins to the Patriots. That just came out. 2-year, $8.4 million deal. Okay, the Patriots add another like wide receiver 4 or 5 to their wide receiver room. Not a move that I'm really gaudy over. Those are just my thoughts to the moves that we have seen thus far. I tried to run through it as quick as possible for you guys. That way it wasn't some hour-long podcast. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think about these moves? Is there anything you want me to go more in depth in? If so, let's have a conversation and build this NFL community in the comment section. I appreciate your support. If you made it this far in the video, the best thing you could do to support this channel is hit the like button and subscribe. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.